I have no plan to live in the U.S. again. And actually, I really don't care for the first world countries, to be honest. I like the lesser developed, sometimes more primitive areas. Indonesia and Thailand are gorgeous. I mean, you have, like in Thailand, you have the fastest internet in the world, but then you can have these rustic living elements. And I just love that. So like Australia was fun to go to, but it's like the United States just with an accent. You know? I decided if I took the core tenets of these different categories or lifestyles and put it into one for me, I can design a life where I'm going to significantly reduce my expenses. I was building a business and determined to keep that sucker growing so I could build that gap that we talk about and save and invest. And ultimately, I executed that by leaving the U.S. and living abroad so I could drop those expenses and also take a tax exclusion that's very healthy in that savings category. I just started running the numbers. I'm like, if I get rid of all of this and I start living abroad, I can drop my expenses by 2/3. So I did. And I still live in really beautiful places. I'm in a lovely one-bedroom apartment here in Albania, but I kind of look for one-bedrooms or studio apartments or homes around the world. And I relatively keep my rent around $1,000 a month. And I'm considered a bougie nomad at that. I'm a high spender in rent.
Welcome to Catching Up to FI, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission. Join
us as we catch up to FI together.
Hello, and welcome back to Catching Up to FI. Of course, I'm Bill Yount, and of course, it's Jackie Cummins-Koski here with me on the call. Jackie, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Bill. I got this crazy feeling that I want to travel now because of our guest today. I'm just so jealous, but I'm ready to get into our conversation. And I think she'll inspire a lot of people that has been wanting to do that, travel abroad, that nomadic life. And she's going to tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, I'm landlocked, as are you right now. I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee, as always, and you're in Dayton, Ohio. I've traveled a lot, but it's more intentional travel. It's more American-style travel, and I've lived abroad in Germany for a total of 2 years, and so I understand that part of it. But I was more home-based, and then would have trips out into the world from my home base, which is a little different from Cris Gawlik. So let me introduce her, and we'll jump in. This is a how-to episode for those late starters out there that think that this is their way to accelerate financial independence. So in 2019, at the age of 39, Dr. Christina Gawlik sold all of her belongings and downsized to a suitcase and a day pack to live an international nomadic lifestyle. Her blog is called A Suitcase and a Smile, after that advertisement back in the day, A Coke and a Smile. And there she talks about all the amazing countries she's visited, like Bali, Belize, Indonesia, and Thailand. You name it. At this point, 5 years in, she's probably been there. Before all this, Cris was a math teacher, professor really, that earned her PhD. She has found the most creative ways to earn income while she travels to fund her nomadic lifestyle. She is CUtFI and probably more than that by now, and has tapped into geo-arbitrage like you would not believe. She has 2 goals with her new lifestyle choice: travel the world and reach FIRE. Dr. Christina Gawlik, welcome to Catching Up to FI.
Thanks so much. I'm happy to be here with you too.
Hey, Cris, we're happy to have you.
Where are you in the world? Where are you coming to us from today?
Today, I'm in Albania, a city called Saranda, which is a beach town.
Wow.
Okay.
Right across from Corfu, Greece. I took a ferry from Corfu to come here, and I can actually see Corfu from my patio. So.
I've been to Corfu back when I was doing my Eurail Pass trip back in the day where I backpacked around Europe in my 20s. And I got stuck on Corfu in the Pink Palace. I left my traveler's checks at the bank and the port. I got to the other side of the island. What I didn't realize was, and I couldn't pay for my room on the beach. And what I didn't realize was all the signs on the roads were in Greek. I had to jump on a moped and I had to find my way back to the port just to see if my traveler's checks, remember those things, were there. And luckily, the banker had saved them. And I was again off to the races. But that wasn't the only time I screwed up. And I had gone south to where it was warmer because when I was in Germany, I changed my clothes. And I had left my backpack in a locker in the railroad station. And I was walking across town in Munich. I changed my clothes in a bathroom and I left my wallet on the sink in the bathroom. I proceeded to go to the Hofbrauhaus and I had 2 or 3 of those big steins of beer, a lot of Wurst, and I went to pay and they had to take pity on me because I had nothing to pay with. And that time I raced back to the locker and I didn't have the key to the locker. It was in my wallet. And so I went to the supervising official and said, "This is my locker number. Can we open it?" He opened it. Guess what? No backpack. All of my stuff, other than my traveler's checks, my passport, my camera, a couple of T-shirts, and a couple of shorts were there. And so I said, in true fashion, I called my parents crying. I was like, what do I do? I have a credit card. I have my traveler's checks. And I decided the way to solve this problem is to go to Corfu. I just got,
Sure.
got on a train and went on down there, froze my ass off going across the water there to Corfu, and then got stuck there and did it again. These are things, and we'll talk about your faux pas along the way. I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but it's not necessarily easy to travel the world, keep track of things, and not screw up from time to time. Jackie, have you had issues like this too?
I am not the world traveler like you guys, but I've been scared kind of. And reading Chris's story and her experiences, I'm kind of lightened up. I did go to Thailand last year, but Cris, I have a million questions. So why don't we get into it? Because I want to become a pro like you.
Sure thing.
So yeah, so you're in Albania now, is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
I just got here.
So that's awesome. How many countries have you been to so far?
I think this is around 45, something like that. So,
just 45. Wow. That's a lot of countries. That's a lot of countries. But so you didn't always do this. So why don't we step back and talk a little bit about kind of growing up and your experiences, maybe some of your first money memories. And I'm very curious about you, the mathematician. So take us through that a little bit.
Sure. I grew up in Kansas and I have an older sister, and at 10, our parents divorced. At that time, I also had a best friend and her parents that were also like my faux parents. They just did a lot with our family. I was in Girl Scouts. Her mom was my Girl Scout troop leader. I was in dance with my friend. And also at the same time when my parents divorced, my faux parents, if you will, the dad, the husband, had received a job transfer to Texas. So their family was moving, but the mom was still working in Kansas, so she would stay with us. So she would travel back and forth. So I just kind of had 4 parents, and I'm living among my mom, and then my dad moved out, obviously, when they got divorced. And then I started living in Texas every summer and every Thanksgiving with my faux family, my best friend's family. My dad remarried when I was 15, so I had parent number 5 in the picture then, and they started having homes in different states, Arizona primarily, but there was a ski house in Colorado, and we've had a hunting house in Missouri ever since, like before I was born, I think. So when I would spend my time with them, it would be, which house are you at? Where am I meeting you? So at a young age, I think I was flying by myself by 12 to get to the next parent's house. And by 16, I was driving cross country by myself to also respectively see my family. So I kind of attribute this nomad life that I'm doing now internationally to all of my parents' faults. They made me this way from living all over the US and then me spending time with them everywhere. And then they also encouraged me as I became an adult to pursue that next career. So I started moving all over the US for my higher education and different career choices in math and education. As you mentioned, I was a university professor in a few different places, actually, Texas and Illinois, Kansas. And then I started working for ed tech companies. So still on the math side of things, math education. I developed curriculum for a STEM company out of Louisiana. So that was a different area of the US that I hadn't really spent much time in. And then I worked for a company out of Virginia, but they had me be based in Arizona. And with that company, I was managing professional development and I had all of our contracts worldwide. So I did a lot of work in Canada and I also got to go out to Dubai and Qatar. And that's when my world changed. That was in 2017. And I knew I needed to get out and see more. Ultimately, also later in 2017, I quit working for that company and I started my own little business. I had been freelancing for a long time, ever since I was a professor, because I had to publish and do other things. So I kind of got into the freelance editorial service world then. And I just reached out to my contacts from back in the day and said, hey, I'm available. I have a lot of time. I'm available since I wasn't working for anyone. And if they had any projects, and I had only done small projects for them in the past, and they sent me these large ones. And I was really freaking out because I was used to maybe a $2,000 contract, not a $60,000 contract. So that was exciting. And I just ran with it and used my resources to get that business going. And it eventually grew as well, which was great. So that's kind of my life in a nutshell there in the US with family and careers and pursuing that. And it was 2018 when I found the fire communities and CUtFI. And something came across my Facebook account with some 30-year-old retiring, and I was 38 at that time. And I'm like, well, how do you retire at 30? So I went down the rabbit hole. I've listened to the podcast. I read all the books out at the time. And at the same time, I had learned about digital nomads and expats, expatriates, people that live outside of their home country. And so I just did a lot of research into that. Minimalism also came up. And I decided if I took the core tenets of these different categories or lifestyles and put it into one for me, I can design a life where I'm going to significantly reduce my expenses. I was building a business and determined to keep that sucker growing so I could build that gap that we talk about and save and invest. And ultimately, I executed that by leaving the US and living abroad so I could drop those expenses and also take a tax exclusion that's very healthy in that savings category. So that's kind of a gist.
Let's roll back. That's a little bit sort of the evolution of the business side of what you did, but you were a late starter. You found this, you didn't get it all right to begin with. Your money story was a little different. And this is often the case with our late starter audience. What were the mistakes you made and why did you get a late start?
Let's see. I started teaching high school math at 23. And in Kansas, we had what the Kansas teacher retirement account. I think it was called Capers or something. I was only making $33,000 a year in 2006. And so I did not understand what the account was. I understood part of my money was going somewhere and that I could get it later. Well, when I ended up moving from Kansas to Texas, I only taught high school 3 years, went back to school, got the PhD, working a billion part-time jobs everywhere. I cashed out that retirement amount so I could move from Kansas to Texas. It was less than $4,000. So to me, that wasn't a lot of money because since I started working when I was young. My parents were like, if you want to do this stuff, you got to put your time in. And by the time I was 18, I was working in nightclubs as a waitress. So 21, I'm bartending, and I made a healthy amount bartending. So for me, $4,000 in a retirement account, I was like, well, I'm going to cash that out. I'm going to use that for the moving truck, a nicer apartment to get settled. I was going to have my first full-time professor position. And even when I got to Texas as a professor, they have the Texas teacher account retirement, whatever it is. I don't even remember. Again, I just didn't know what it is. And people sit down with you and they talk through it, but it was not clicking. And it's really, really, really embarrassing because as a professor in math, I was teaching compound interest. And guess what these problems were about? They were about saving, they were about car loans, they were about taxes and mortgages, all the concepts were, but my light bulb just did not go off at that time. And then having the other professional careers working for these ed tech companies, again, I sit down with whoever that they bring in for the retirement accounts, and I just didn't get it. Like, I knew my money was going somewhere, and I knew that because it's a retirement account, it's tied to some age. And I was 20 something, 30 something, and 59 and a half didn't mean anything to me because it's so far away. So I just shrugged and said, okay, put whatever in there. And so I'm grateful that I did, but those accounts don't have half as much in them as they should have because I just didn't know. I didn't know what questions to ask. And I think that that's really common and why so many people are late starters. So I have to thank the FI communities because reading about why and how you need to put your money away. And then ultimately when my light bulb went off and I understood everything, I just had to do it in a vastly different way because I didn't have access to all of those traditional retirement accounts that we have in the US at the time I was ready to really load my accounts up. So
Yeah. I mean, Cris, I kind of had the same type of experience, was really young and had no idea. I had a 401k, but you're an educator. So I feel like the big missing piece is the education part of it. All this stuff floating out there, and there's not really any real organized education, and it's going to be dependent on the company. So you spent many, many years, as I did, Bill probably too, and just not understanding it because there was no formal education, even if it was like maybe an hour video or session or something to make sure you understood how this worked. So I think a lot of late starters it resonates with them because we just didn't know.
well, and besides all these different accounts and the name of accounts, like that's
Right.
intimidating. But then it's like the types of investment. So you've got all these different type of accounts with these weird names. And then you have different types of investments that you have to then put in it. I can't tell you how many people say, oh yeah, I put money in my IRA. And then I'm asking them, oh, cool. What did you invest in? And I mean, so many of my friends, I do a lot of mentoring on the side in Messenger. And yeah, so many of them, they've been putting money in an account, but it's not invested. So it's doing nothing for them.
Right.
And I did have at these companies I worked for, they had people sit down one-on-one with us to explain stuff. But obviously how they were explaining it just went totally over my head, which is the embarrassing part, especially by the time I had my PhD and I'm doing this and that. And even how the material is taught in the courses, I had the disconnect. And if I could go back into the classroom today and teach the same courses that had the content, I would be able to do it so differently because I'm passionate about it now. I didn't get it before. Like I could do the algebra, I could do the add, subtract, multiply, divide. We could do that. But the true mental connection and why it was important for me. I love my mom to death, of course, but one thing that I still kind of get on her back about is that she's always told me to save. That was literally the sentence. You need to save your money, period. She didn't say how, why, in what ways, where are you going to start putting it? And then also like what's going to happen to it, the compounding. And nobody really said what you're going to do after you saved it. And I've been retired for a little over a year now, and I am spending my money. I get it now. I save my money. I've got it in kind of 4 different accounts right now, and I'm living off of one and letting the other 3 grow. But I understand the purpose now. I'm literally using it like a paycheck. And I needed someone to be very literal with me, and nobody was. I feel like people beat around the bush because money is that taboo topic. And so for me, it just didn't click. I needed specific examples. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I posted an article in our Facebook community just the other day about the billions and billions of dollars of lost compounding that happened because people think they're investing. They dump it in their retirement account, their IRA or their 401k. Now, at least the 401ks can default to target date funds these days. So that helps, but it needs to be more robust than that. That at least obviates the problem of not being invested. But the IRAs are where this probably sits, because you can put the money there, but it's not automatically put in anything. It falls to you in your Roth or your traditional IRA to make sure it's invested. Now, you can do automatic investing, and you want to automate this as much as possible, but you can automate the transfer of cash, but you really need to go in and automate the transfer of cash and the automatic investing into something. And at Fidelity, where I just transitioned everything into ETFs, you can automatically invest in ETFs in fractional shares. People think that that's not possible, but that's been possible for a little while. And they thought, oh, I need to be in mutual funds in order to do that. But that's not the case, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And Bill, I think it was Schwab was the company that did that research that said so many people had money sitting in cash. I'm thinking, okay, we got AI, we got all this technology. Certainly, if you could do research, determine how many people got this much cash in their account, you can find a way to maybe send them a little notification or just a little reminder that, hey, all of your money is in cash. Just want to make sure you're aware of it. But I guess they don't want to spend their efforts doing that.
Well, the interesting thing here is, too, is you were always a gypsy. You were kind of a gypsy at heart through your life growing up, through your professional life. And then so there was a natural transition to the mentality of being a gypsy traveling the world. And geo-arbitrage is a way to either lower your cost of living and allow your nest egg to be your FI, but you did it a little differently. And you need to hopefully help take us through the numbers, because you used geo-arbitrage and the nomadic lifestyle to accelerate your path to FI. I would like to know, for example, what your nest egg was and what your income was at the time you made the leap, and then take us through the financial aspects of what you did, so that this is a how-to episode. Tell us how you did it.
Sure. So I started my own business, that freelance business in 2017. 2018, I learned about FI. In 2019. So the year 2018 into 19, I devised my plan on how I'm going to exit the US and put all these little pieces together. So it's important to know that in those last few years that I was living in the US, when I was still working for the prior company, I was earning over $90,000 a year, 90, 100, 120 those last few years before I started my business. And I was spending all of it because I could. Why not? I should give myself better credit than I do in the past. I had saved some, but not nearly what I had. My PhD, I paid $40,000. I took out $40,000 in loans for that one. And I was able to pay that off in 4.5 years after I graduated. So I worked really, really hard and was just determined that I'm going to try and dump 10 grand a year towards that and knock it out, and obviously a little bit more. But I was just a big spender living in the US. I love clothes and wine and food and watches and diamonds and going to Las Vegas and gambling a lot. And I had a big, beautiful house in Arizona, Peoria, Arizona, a huge house for me as a solo person, pool, spa, nice new car. And yeah, I just started running the numbers. I'm like, if I get rid of all of this and I start living abroad, I can drop my expenses by 2/3. So I did. And I still live in really beautiful places. I'm in a lovely 1-bedroom apartment here in Albania, but I kind of look for 1 bedrooms or studio apartments or homes around the world. And I relatively keep my rent around $1,000 a month. And I'm considered a bougie nomad at that. I'm a high spender in rent.
I like that. Bougie nomad. I love
Yeah, yeah.
it.
So a lot of nomads spend significantly less in rent. I chase beach communities. Anytime you're closer to the water, it's more expensive, but that's just what I've learned I love. And I learned that when I first left the US, I went down to Mexico, and I've always lived in landlocked states, Kansas, Texas, Illinois, Louisiana, Arizona. And to be on the water in Mexico, in Puerto Morelos, a friend of a friend allowed me to rent their penthouse that they just bought. And so it was just the coolest thing. And I fell in love with beach life, and I've been chasing it ever since, these 5+ years. And I don't have a car, so I don't have the car expense itself. I used to have a loan on the last one I had, so I had a payment, but I don't have the registration or the insurance or the gas or the maintenance. So that was a huge chunk I could take off of my expenses. I don't have the house. So I know my mortgage payment back then was about $1,250. So I'm actually keeping my rent lower than that. And my rent always includes all utilities. So electric, water, gas, if you have it, Wi-Fi, all of that, where that was additional being a homeowner. Plus I don't have property taxes anymore, and all the other maintenance. My pool pump broke, my garage coil broke, and the door slammed down, all that stuff that went on with the tree breaking during the storm, monsoon in Arizona. And I live out of a suitcase. So I had to kick my clothing addiction that I had. My addiction to consumerism is what I call that one. I had 120 pairs of shoes that I had to part with. And I really love shoes and purses and watches. And I left with 7 pairs of shoes, and I now own 2. So kind of. I have a pair of water socks as well, but I don't consider those shoes because I only wear them in the water.
So, Cris, how did you feel with the downsizing? I'm listening to all the things that you had, the purses, the shoes, and all the clothes, and you had to give away or sell a lot of stuff to get down to this one suitcase. Like, how did that feel? How did you even get to the point where you could do that?
At first, it was exciting. I was following other nomads online, obviously, at that point in time. And we all really like our packing videos or blog posts, pictures of like, what is everyone carrying? And why are you carrying that? And I found Marie Kondo. She taught me how to fold my clothes really well so they don't wrinkle and they compact down. For me, I've debunked that the roll is not as good as a fold. So I fold my clothes in a very specific way so I can pack everything I own in 15 minutes because I know how to physically like fold it, pack it, and then put it in the suitcase so it fits every time. So I'm a little OCD when it comes to stuff like that. It was very liberating to sell a lot. It was hard though, because I had my last house. I've actually owned 2 homes. I owned one at 23 when I started teaching high school, had that 3 years. And then this other house I had for 4 years, and I call it my big girl house. Had this great income working for this ed tech company. I was really proud of myself. And that American dream, you get the new car, you get the house with the picket fence and this and that. So I was climbing the ladder. I checked all the boxes for that. And I had beautiful furniture but I invited my friends over to my home first. And I said, you tell me what you want, and then we'll talk about when they'll start to pick it up. And I was so lucky that some local friends took my bed the last morning of when I turned the keys in. So I didn't have to sleep on the floor the last night. So we just timed it all out. But it was hard. And I did have one freak out moment. It was the very last night in the house. I was tired because it's all the little things that come down to the end that add up. And I turned the light off to lay down, and I had a panic attack. I sat up quickly, turned the light back on. I felt my heart was racing. I knew I was physically having a panic attack. So I just took some deep breaths and I told myself it's okay. And I knew no matter what, I was going to be fine. I sold the house and made $127,000 profit. I already had a chunk of change in Bill. You asked, like, how much did I have saved up at that point? I can't remember. I just know for a fact I sold the house for whatever, and I was going to get a deposit of 127,000 and some change. So that was my backup plan. I had this chunk of change that I already knew I was going to put. I had 3 laddered CDs I was going to do with 60,000 of it. The rest of it was going into my brokerage. And those laddered CDs were, if I start traveling and I don't like my nomad life, then I can come back and use that 60K for a down payment on something, maybe, or rent, or like that was my safety net. So I kind of mentally talked through all that night, and I laid down and I'm like, I'm good. It's fine. Everything's going to be fine. And it was great. And I love it.
But you didn't draw down per se, and this is where you made this happen. And this small business that you'd established gave you, as I recall, you had maybe a quarter million dollars of revenue in a year. You were living, your own income was around, I think, $120,000, and you were living off of 30 and saving 90. Are those numbers correct?
Yeah, something right around there. So mostly 2020 in there. So I sold everything, left the US, dropped all my expenses. A lot of the research I had done at that point in time pointed out that I was going to live on $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year. And what is that site? International Living. They throw out a lot of numbers. Well, their numbers are hooey. It's just hooey. Things change all the time. And it's also personal lifestyle. I was living the abundance lifestyle. I totally went into lifestyle inflation, from earning $33,000 as a high school teacher at 23 to earning $100,000 or so in my early mid 30s. That's a big jump in a decade. And so, yeah, it was a big lifestyle change for me to sell everything and then start spending significantly less. But what was helpful is that living abroad, the cost of living was just lower, and I'm still living an opulent life. I'm that bougie nomad, as I said. I'm renting nicer places, or not nicer, but just it has more bells and whistles than other people that just are fine with a modest accommodation. And a lot of nomads do prefer hostel life and shared accommodations, co-living and stuff like that. That's just not what I want for me at this point. And there's house sitting and other ways to kind of hack that part of the cost. But yeah, I was growing my business at that time after I left. And because I was getting so many contracts, I was hiring people. And that was new and scary at the same time. And by hiring people to work under me as like subcontractors, I could take on more work, balance it out. And yeah, one of my highest earning years, we made $250,000, and I took the majority of that and was able to save $90,000 literally that year in my brokerage. And that was insane. I just remember the third month, one of my best friends is a wealth advisor. And so I talk to her all the time about this stuff. And I was just like, I just deposited another 10 grand. It was so exciting, deposit and invested. And yeah, I felt really good. I'm like, okay, this works. I'm working really hard at my business. I love the fact that I was employing other people too. That made me feel good. I figured out how to drop my expenses by living abroad in really cool places and meeting new friends and learning different stuff. And yeah, let those accounts grow. So I was able to sock away a lot of money in a short amount of time. But I also wasn't just working one job. There's always other stuff happening as well. So, and that's the piece that I think a lot of people miss. Ever since I was young, I bartended, I taught dance, I tutored math, I house sat, dog sat, babysat. I just found these other side gigs. And online today, my Facebook page is monetized. I make a couple hundred a month, so not tons, but I'll take it. I have buy me a coffee page, and I earn also a couple hundred a month on that too from supporters, which I'm greatly appreciative to all of them. And Jackie and I had talked earlier. She'd seen my blog post before and stuff. I created a feet finder page once upon a time, a couple years ago, because people were saying they were making a lot of money selling their feet pictures. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. So didn't work out well for me. I made $8.43 that I cannot withdraw because it's not above the threshold. But hey, I'm not scared to try something new and see what happens, because these are all like low risk options.
Yeah, I don't think I'll make a lot of money off of my feet pick, but I was inspired by your entrepreneur and your creative way to make money. And so I did take a feet pick, and I have to share that on YouTube or something, Bill. Again, I'm not going to get rich off of that picture for sure, but I thought it was kind of cool. And it just demonstrates that how much money we can make or what type of income we can get is only limited by our imagination and creativity. And obviously you have tons of it.
Hey listeners, we are excited to have DeleteMe as a new sponsor of our podcast. Did you know that your personal identifying information is found all over the internet and that data brokers sell it? Things like address, phone number, name, and many other things are on there, and we need to have them off. The risks of having your personal information on display are almost innumerable, but here are a few. Number one, you risk being harassed or attacked because of your publicly expressed views, opinions, profession, etc. Number two, you risk identity theft and becoming the victim of many of the phishing scams we have talked about on our shows with Paula Pant, episode 66, Scam-A-Lot, and retired FBI agent Donna Peterson, episode 78, CyberFi and the FBI. As you know from my story, my identity was stolen. My financial institutions were accessed. And once stolen, you really can't get the privacy of your identity back and are on the defensive forever. Number three, you risk being stalked. This happened to a blogger friend of mine. Did you know that you really have a right to privacy? But how do we fight back? I choose to place my trust in a product called DeleteMe. It's a hands-free online subscription service that removes your personally identifiable information from being sold online. DeleteMe privacy experts remove you from hundreds of data brokers year-round. 7 days after you sign up, you get your first privacy report. Here is a screenshot of my dashboard. As you can see, they've looked at 84 total data brokers, they've looked at 4,477 listings, and they've had 57 data brokers with my information on them. So it's a comprehensive service that I use year-round. And they continue to monitor all of these sites and continue to remove my personal identifying information as it gets resold again. So how do you join me in protecting your personal identifiable information? Simple. Go to joindeleteme.com/catchingup and use promo code catchingup at checkout, and you'll get 20% off of U.S. consumer plans. They also have family plans. That is joindeleteme.com/catchingup and use promo code catchingup. Protect yourself like I do. You'll sleep better at night. Thank you, DeleteMe, for sponsoring our show. I love your product and I recommend it to our audience wholeheartedly.
So, Cris, so what was your main business? You said you kind of went down the entrepreneur route in 2017. Like, what was the main thing that you did? Because obviously you have a math background. I don't know if it had something to do with that, but I'd love to hear a little bit about what was that main business that was bringing in some big bucks?
Yeah, so one of my largest clients was Pearson Education, so the largest textbook company in the world. I had connected with them many years earlier as a professor and had done side work for them. So that's who I reached out to first. And they like contracting with professors because they obviously have the credentials and the expertise and this and that. And so I edit math books that they have and then all the resources that go along with it. I also have created thousands of math videos. So you don't see my face, but I animate all the math on a screen, and then you would hear my voice talking through, teaching the content on these videos. And they embed the videos within their online platform that's associated with each textbook. They also have PowerPoints that go along with textbooks, and that's for the instructor of the course. So somebody has to create this stuff. So it's all these back end things that they hire people like me that have the expertise and credentials for. So I originally reached out to them And that first year, 2017 to 2018, they had plenty of work for me. So I was really happy. And I felt like, okay, I established this business. My skills are needed. What's different from me is that I have a background in education and mathematics. So my area of expertise is actually how people learn math. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on cognitively, the pedagogy of it, and biology as well. So that is helpful in the editorial world too, on how you piece together content for a course, what goes in, what doesn't, where. And then I also have the technology skills. I can create these videos. I'm very good at editing the written work. In the math world, we have our own grammar rules with equations and font and formatting. And I know all that from being in the space for so long. And then I started reaching out to other companies. I used to speak at conferences a lot back in the day, and I would go online, find the conferences I was very familiar with, look at their program guide for any conference, and then I flip to the section for vendors and exhibitors. And these are all the companies in my space. And so you could do that for any field, any industry. And so these were my target audience. Instead of going to a job board, searching LinkedIn or other things, these conference programs had the companies that I wanted to target. And then I started looking them up, and I would use LinkedIn to find a key person, an editor or whatnot. And then I would start sending out the cold emails, introducing myself briefly, saying I'm available for contract hire, and these are the services I can offer. And yeah, it just kept rolling in.
Wow, I love your creativity. How about that, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a job that can be digital. I have to have my butt in the chair. It doesn't allow me really to do the digital nomad life because I can't work just from a computer. I've got to interact with people daily. What our audience is going to want to know about this, though, is what are the logistics? Okay. When you're in the States, you have standard insurance and your cell phone plan and healthcare and taxes. And so let's run through some of these topics and find out how you did this ectopically from all over the world. And let's start maybe with banking.
Yeah, I think banking is very important because I need access to my money, and that's really important to me. So I did learn prior to leaving to open an account at Charles Schwab, that they are the best financial institution for people that travel globally often or for expats, people that just live abroad. I do have to use an address in the United States. So in order for any of my US banking to be set up. When I first left, I actually used my dad's address. He's in Arizona. That's where I last had residency. So going online to the Arizona website and just doing a change of address for my driver's license and voting and everything was really easy to do. I since have changed that just to help so he doesn't get kind of some of the junk mail. I have a best friend that also lives in Arizona, and she has kindly allowed me to use her address. So for all sake, the US thinks that I technically live at my friend's house. So, which I could be a roommate. She does have a guest room. So that nuance, figuring out the address thing is very important first. So Charles Schwab, what's great about my checking account there is that that's the account I use to get local currency no matter where I am. So here in Albania, it's Albanian lek or leek. I'm not sure how they pronounce it. And so, yeah, I can go to an ATM. I can withdraw how much currency I would like, and any fee that I might be charged at that particular machine will come out of my account right then and there. But the last day of every month, Charles Schwab reimburses all ATM fees worldwide. If I choose to use my debit card for a transaction, say at a restaurant or grocery store, I do not have foreign transaction fees. I don't use that card for that purpose because I use other credit cards for points on that. But Schwab has been great. I ran into an issue in Thailand last year with the ATM, like I was getting an error message at this machine, and I'm living on a small island, and I could only walk to like one or two machines on the island. The others I would have had to take a tuk-tuk to get to. I just didn't want to pay the money for it. And so I called Schwab up when I was getting this message, and we were trying to figure out what the issue was. And talking through with the guy, he said, look, it's nothing on their end. He suggested try a different machine, but he also told me open up a second account and get a second debit card. So you have a different number and a different expiration date and year. And then that way, if anything if my primary debit card would get stolen, then I have my backup and I can just swap my money over from checking to savings or checking to checking in the app and be set. The funny thing with the ATM, the reason why it wasn't working, the machine was empty. So it had nothing to do with Charles Schwab. Everybody's going to this one machine because it's a small island and it's all like foreigners coming and everything. It's a cash society where we were at. And so everybody needed Thai baht. And we just ran the machine dry because there's so many foreigners coming for the baht. So that was good in the sense that like nothing was wrong with my card. But I was grateful that a Schwab representative told me, just open another account. You don't even have to fund it, but you get a second debit card, totally different number, and it's your backup. So that's nice. And I have multiple fail safes. I've got many, many credit cards with no foreign transaction fees, and I'm doing the points game on them. And then I do have a couple other debit cards. I would never use them, but thankfully, yeah, the banking thing works out, but you do have to have a US address that is a brick and mortar address. There are services out there. Traveling mailbox I had used, they'll give you a PO box, but it's not an actual like residential address. And some of the banks, I don't know if it's Citibank or Capital One, some of them are getting picky if they realize you're abroad and they'll shut your accounts down. So you have to be on the know with that. Yeah.
And Cris, I'm wondering, I guess with the money part or anything else, when you're in all these other countries, obviously they speak different languages. Has there ever been an issue with the language barrier? How do you navigate not knowing the language? Do you use an app or how do you deal with that piece?
I know a decent amount of Spanish, so I can hear more than I can get out of my mouth. I get nervous. But I took Thai lessons when I was in Thailand because I lived there for 8 months. So I took a month of lessons. So Chan Rian Pasa Thai Ka. So I'm learning to speak Thai. That's what I said.
What did you just say in Thai? What did you just say in Thai?
I'm learning to speak Thai.
Yeah, you just said something in Thai?
Yeah, Chan Rian Pasa Thai
Okay.
Ka is
Okay,
I am
gotcha.
learning to speak Thai. So Sawadee Ka
Gotcha.
is hello. Kap Kun Ka is thank you. Pet Nit Noi is spicy. Yeah. Albanian is hard. Oh, I tried to teach myself hello and thank you. And I did get to say hello today, but I can't rattle it off right now. As I was walking, I wanted to buy some more water before I came home. And I looked at my Google Translate app. I put in hello in English, it'll spit it out in Albanian, and I can listen to it. So I listened to it like 3 times and I said it out loud twice. And then when I approached the gentleman, I said hello in English first, and then I said hello in Albanian and asked, did I say that okay? And he had just repeated it. So I don't think I butchered it too much, but I do try, and I can say hello, thank you, and a couple other things in about like 9 languages or something at this point. I try really, really hard to learn a couple things before I get somewhere. I just wasn't as prepared I had a long travel day, so I didn't practice as much yesterday as I should have before getting here. But I'll pick some up.
So that is a barrier, and there's a lot of barriers. I mean, another barrier would be insurance. You've got to figure out healthcare and health insurance. So what did you do there?
When I first left, I was with Cigna Global. So Cigna, we're familiar with that. They have a global division. You have to be outside of the US more than 6 months a year or something like that. I used them. My thing is I'm a healthy person, and I did have one accident last year. I fell, I broke my finger, busted it open. I had to have emergency hand surgery in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I had like 3 follow-ups with that hand surgeon. And it was a total of 1,500 US. And for me, because I'm FI, I was like, okay, I think I'll put this on my Chase card and get 2 times points. So it was $1,500 for me was not, I mean, it was a bummer, but I didn't go bankrupt over that. I filed it with my health insurance, but guess what? My deductible was $3,000. Yeah. So it just, for me, it wasn't worth it. I found another company I just switched to this year called Genki out of Germany. And I'm doing more of a monthly, they would call it a travel insurance as opposed to like an annual health insurance that you're used to. And it's 60 euros a month, but they have a referral program and I get 5% commission off of people that sign up under me. And so I've already earned, 80, 90 euros. And so that will be credited to my account. So I'll have like at least a month off free this year. So I take those little things when I can. But with Genki, I have a 50 euro deductible. So that's a lot better. And there's no maximum amount on the coverage. It's essentially unlimited. To be honest, I did not read all the details of the plan. I'm a little weird when it comes to health insurance. In the US, it's totally different. The rest of the world does not work the way that the United States does. And so if I'm not in the US, I don't need to do what Americans do. As I meet people around the world, the majority of people I know, nomads and expat wise, a lot of them do not have any form of health insurance and they self-insure. My well woman exam was like $15 in Panama, $20, $30 in Australia. So like I can afford that. Teeth cleaning, dental, $30, $40 a cleaning, if that. I sleep with retainers to keep my teeth. I had braces when I was younger, and so I want to keep my teeth straight, and I'm just used to wearing them after 30 some years. And I got a new one also when I was in Malaysia, and I think that one was more expensive. That was like $200, and I was expecting it to be less, but I'm sure it would be like way more.
Probably like $2,000.
Right? Yeah.
I
was just gonna say, and then like breaking my finger and everything and having to have that surgery because like the bone, they had to clear it out. Oh, it was so gross. It was awful. I'm sure that easily would have been thousands and thousands of dollars had I done that in the US. I wish I could feel comfortable not having health insurance because I feel like the premium I'm paying, I'm wasting for me because I don't have major healthcare needs. If I would keep that premium and keep it invested, and then when something happened, just pay it. But I do feel like I still have that like American brainwash that we have to have it because something awful is going to happen and you need it for that awful, awful thing, So that's kind of where I stand on that.
As a healthcare provider, that would make me a little nervous. If you have a big issue, when we were in Morocco and we were in the desert, I'm like, okay, say I break my leg or have a heart attack because I'm older and I go and potentially at risk for bigger health issues. How do I repatriate myself? And we got, for the first time in our lives, global travel insurance that would get us back to the States for healthcare and help us out with any healthcare we had there. It was relatively cheap.
But that's because you want to go back to the US for healthcare. Honestly, that would be the last country I would go to get healthcare. Panama and Thailand have excellent stem cell research. People are traveling all over the world to get to these 2 countries to do phenomenal healthcare things for themselves for pennies on the dollar from what we're used to. My hand surgeon in Malaysia was fantastic, speaks English. I think he was from London originally. I just had skin cancer cut off in Australia for like $700, $800. My guy from there, he was born in London, lived in New Zealand. My gynecologist I saw in Australia was from Canada. So like the healthcare around the world is amazing. And I think that we just have this big, big, big misconception that the US is the only place to go for healthcare. You're based, Bill, there, and you have a home there. So of course you want to get the care done like close to home so you can be in your bed. But my bed is anywhere that I choose at the time.
Her suitcase is her bed.
Yeah.
Your expert is in Malaysia. Your gynecologist is
in Panama and Australia.
And your dermatologist is in Australia. So you have quite a diverse cadre of healthcare professionals.
Just so you know, if you go to Turkey, Bill, they have excellent men's hair treatment options in Turkey. That's the biggest thing. If you go to Istanbul, they will set you up with a full head of hair. So I'm just saying, and a lot of people go there for dental as well. Wow. So come on out this way.
Who wants hair when you can wash yourself? You need to comb it. You don't need to go pay for haircuts. Why don't you save on haircuts? There you go.
I think that's a backhanded compliment, but it's that home country bias. And it comes into play when it comes to health insurance. And I want to add on a little bonus when you are abroad, whether you're traveling or if you are permanently abroad like you are, Cris. If you have existing HSA dollars, you can use your health savings account to pay for any medical services in other countries. You don't have to be in the U.S. Now, you can't buy drugs and bring it back. It has to be done in the country. But you're getting a double benefit that way, right? Tax-free savings, of course, from the HSA, tax-free paying for it in a cheaper country. Plenty of places where you might have even better insurance than what you would get or better care than you would get in the U.S. So don't forget about your HSA dollars. That's another valuable use of HSA money.
Well, that's our HSA maven talking there. So you get your cocaine, your marijuana, your hookers.
It has to be legal in both countries. It has to be legal in both countries.
So your medical marijuana. Out.
I do take one medication. It's a form of birth control. It's called Depo-Provera. I share this open publicly out there. So it's a shot that I take quarterly. In the US, brand name, back when I still lived there, it was $200 a shot with insurance, I think, at the time when I was still there. Generic was like $80 a shot. So 4 shots a year. And when I went to Mexico, it was $22 a shot and over the counter, where it was prescription in the US. So I had to first see a doctor in the US, get a prescription. And then depending on the doctor, sometimes they made me go back to their office and they would administer it. I learned in my later years before exiting that I had friends that were nurses, so I just had them give me the shot. And I have family that live in Ecuador, and when I was visiting them, it's over the counter and it's $8 a shot brand name because there's a Pfizer plant there in Ecuador. And so I'm like, this is ridiculous that I can just get it and get brand name for $8 a shot in one country, and I'm paying over $200 a shot with all these jumping through hoops in another. So I have a whole muling system. I just send a message to my cousins in Ecuador, say, hey, when are you going back to the US next? Can you please buy me 2, 3, 4 shots? I send them money on Zelle because we have accounts with Bank of America. I just send them some money. Whenever they go back to the US, they take them and then they mail it to the next person that's coming to see me. I have friends and family visit me from the US all the time. So they'll mail it to the next person. I'll pay them back for the mailing. And then the next person brings it to me along with brand name Q-tips because they're only sold in the US and Canada. And some other things that I like. Tums, red vines, Cajun trail mix. I like that spicy flavor.
You have to even logistically figure out how you do birth control. I mean, these are things that you just don't think of. I mean, one of the things that I wonder about too is how do you handle taxes? What does that look like?
Well, everything's electronic. I do use a tax specialist. He's a tax specialist for expats. And I had learned in the digital nomad communities prior to leaving the US about this tax exclusion called Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, FEIE. And there are 3 or 4 ways to qualify. And the way that I qualify is staying outside of the US or the 7 US territories more than 330 days a year, or 330. So I can come in 35 days if I want. Also, I mentioned I have family in Ecuador. They were the ones who got me connected with my tax specialist. They had been using him for the years, and he was able to clearly explain to me the exclusion, any nuances I needed to know. And so I do pay him to file on my behalf. And what the exclusion does is that it saves the first 120,000 of my earned income is excluded from the tax bill.
Wow.
Now, I'm self-employed, and how I'm self-employed, I do have to pay those taxes. With how I'm able to maneuver some things, it doesn't come out to be the 16%. I normally pay about 10%. So I still owe on that. But that's how in those first couple years when I left and I was earning so much because my business boomed, I was able to save so much money because the first 120 was just lopped off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, or things that you wouldn't know. I mean, then there are social things, which I find interesting too. I mean, I would worry about loneliness. I would worry a little bit of identity and connection, like Doc G says. How do you find yourself challenged with loneliness, and how do you manage it?
It's 100% the opposite. I have to protect my alone time. The traveler world is very sociable. People that are nomads or just even people on vacation, whether it's long or short, or expats that have moved abroad, we love meeting new people. We love hearing each other's stories. And it's hilarious. You can tell if you've met like a nomad or an expat versus someone on vacation by the questions they ask you. What do you do for a living? Oh, you're a vacationer. If somebody asks you, what do you do for healthcare? They're an American. So like, as a traveler, it's like really easy to pick out like who's who. Otherwise, like it's more about like, oh, well, what was the last cool thing you did in Indonesia or Greece? Or we talk about like what we're physically doing day to day. And that's how we learn where to go next and what are you going to do there. There's tons of Facebook groups for any interest. So there's tons of nomad groups, but then they do it by country and location. So in the particular town I'm in right now, this is not a nomad hub, but there's a few other in different parts of the country, but there's a fair amount of expats here. So like I've joined their groups and I made note of the locations and like where they hang out. And so I just got here, so I haven't done it yet, but I will make my way to these locations. And I also put a feeler out in the group. Hey, is there any like weekly coffee meetup? And I'm trying to see what is already established. And if nothing is established, then I like doing a 10 a.m. coffee meetup. I find it to be non-threatening for people to come and have a cup of coffee for a short amount of time. If you don't like the company of other people, you just excuse yourself. Thank you for coming, and then you leave. Or what happens is that I connect really well with one or two people and we just talk for like 2 or 3 hours straight. We go have lunch, we swap numbers or connect on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and then get together over the next several days and hang out. So I've already been in contact with one gal. We're going to go have a beach day soon. She just popped down to a different town for a couple days. But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting her. So I find it way easier to meet people than it was when I lived more traditionally. We had to kind of just go for your extracurricular hobbies like pickleball and volleyball and wine. I had a wine group I enjoyed when I moved to Texas. And all of those exist elsewhere too. But I think when you connect with other travelers, we just bond pretty darn fast. And I've met so many cool people all around the world. And I'm having American Thanksgiving in Portugal with my friends who live in Mexico. So like
Wow.
That's something fun to look forward to. You know?
Yeah, it sounds absolutely amazing to me. Like it just sounds so awesome. So it seems like you've got a lot of this figured out, and I'm sure that's through experience, but I'm curious to hear about the COVID piece. So you started doing this in 2019, and in 2020, COVID changed things for everybody.
Yeah, I happened to arrive to Belize 5 days before they fully shut down. I think I was there 2 days. And then the prime minister started saying, okay, we're going to shut the land, sea, and air borders. So you have 3 days to get on these few select flights if you want to get out of the country. It was American Airlines. Belize is a tiny country. They have like one main airport. You exit the plane on stairs. There's no like jetway or anything like that. It's a tiny, tiny little airport. And I chose to stay, honestly, because of that tax exclusion. And two, if I go back to the US, where the heck would I go? My mom lives in Kansas and she has a guest room. I could have stayed with her. My dad lives in Arizona. He also had a guest room. My sister's in Connecticut. That wouldn't have worked out. Or I could have just like picked a random state and found a furnished apartment. But I wanted to stay out of the US because that tax exclusion meant so much to me. You cannot bounce in and out of that tax exclusion opportunity. If you don't qualify 1 year, you have to wait 5 more years before you qualify again. So it's not use it 1 year, don't use it another. So I stayed in Belize. And I'm in a tiny village of less than 2,000 people. And I was technically even living on a little island. So I had to get in a dinghy and row myself across to get to the mainland to walk up to get groceries and stuff. And I made friends very quickly because one, the community is so small, but everyone was really wanting to help each other the best you can. And yeah, I had a neighbor also on the island. I think there were 3 families, me and 3 other families that stayed on the island for quite a while. One of them had a boat, so he could drive his boat over to the back of the grocery store, and they picked me up a flat of eggs and then like came and dropped it off on my dock because otherwise, like I said, I have to like row myself across and I have to like walk into town 15, 20 minutes and then I have to carry everything back. And yeah, it was just a little rustic life, which I loved. But yeah, it was weird.
You were isolated real well there, but
It
isolated
was.
in the sense that, you know, I guess there was one case in Belize at the time. Belize did a really good job of quarantining, and you quarantined on an island. So in some ways, prophylactically prevented COVID for you.
I still have not caught that at all to this day. I have not had COVID once. I think I have a weird immune system, or maybe I'm one of those people that if I had it, I had no clue, but I have not been sick from that, where all of my family has had it multiple times. And my dad was hospitalized for it that first June, and that was scary.
Yeah, I mean, I have been on the front lines and never got COVID, so got you there.
I haven't either. So we got a trio here that haven't had COVID.
Knock on wood.
Fingers crossed.
I have a couple of final questions. We're coming to the end of our time with you, and I know we could talk forever. You've done it 5 years. You're young still. You're healthy. Do you see this as a finite lifestyle? And do you have any regrets having left behind, say, for example, some traditional things like a spouse, a partner, and kids?
For me, this is my life. I think because I grew up so young with parents all over the place, I am comfortable living in different places. And I am very comfortable making new friends. For me, that's not hard. I know how to. I take the initiative to do that. I have a lot of nomad friends that are couples, that are families, so parents with kids, and then also solo nomad friends as well. And it's just a way of life. This is our norm. Some people only had the intention of living this way for a period of time because that was their goal. They wanted to accomplish so much. My main goal is that I want to know what it's like to actually live in places. So I don't do tons of sightseeing. For me, it's more about how can I meet the owners of the businesses around me and my neighbors, and how can I get to know what's going on in their community and what it was like to grow up and how life is like now. That's really important aspect of my life, although I do hang out with more foreigners, travelers, because we just have a lot in common with this lifestyle. But I think it works for everyone. There's a lot of nomads that talk about dating. They do want to date and find someone, and that's lovely. I personally do have no interest in getting married, and I do not want to have kids. That's been a part of my life decision over 20 some years ago. So I'm very comfortable with that. And what's great is that I do rent beautiful homes. So when I unpack my suitcase, I have a teddy bear and a picture. And those are the first two things that get put in the bedroom. And then I feel at home because I know how to make a space feel home to me. And those are two things that do it. And so I've just gotten a little creative with stuff like that.
A critical element of your suitcase, a teddy bear and a
Oh,
picture, adding to the weight you're carrying around. Do you
yeah.
see this being your lifestyle till advanced age or older age, or are you ever returning to the States?
I have no plan to live in the US again. And actually, I really don't care for the first world countries, to be honest. I like the lesser developed, sometimes more primitive areas. Indonesia and Thailand are gorgeous. I mean, you have, like in Thailand, you have the fastest internet in the world, but then you can have these rustic living elements. And I just love that. So, like, Australia was fun to go to, but it's like the United States just with an accent. So I don't know. I feel like I had almost 40 years in the US. So, like, if I keep going back, how am I going to use these last 4 decades to learn and experience all these other things? So I'm hopeful that I can get to more smaller islands sooner than later. I need to kind of make that more of a priority. So when I do start slowing down physically, this and that, I might go to cities that have a little bit more infrastructure than what I prefer right now. And with my Nomad friends, I had 2 couples this year. They just did their knee replacements in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's the hot spot for that. And several of my Nomad friends are in their late 70s and early 80s. So I just saw a couple in Bali last year. So, and the other thing about living abroad is that most people don't drive. They all live these walkable lifestyles. So, like, I loved being in Greece and Spain. I would just find a bench and sit and hang out. And I watch these elders walk by or sit at a bus stop. And we might not be able to communicate a whole lot because elders don't have as much English experience as the younger generations do. But like, this one woman had her groceries and we were both waiting for the same bus and it like didn't come. Something must have happened. And so I'm trying to look up and I'm showing her my phone and what it's saying. And she didn't have a smartphone, and that was in Greece, and I really don't know any Greek. So, but she's rattling off something to me and we just smile and point and nod. And then we both get on the next bus. Like, if older people can get around by just walking and having this lovely life, then I think I would like to join that. And that's why I like living abroad in these countries where I'm seeing that. So that's what I'm searching for when I get older.
So, Jackie, this has been fascinating. I can't imagine decades of expat or nomad life. We have the van life in the United States too. And there was a great movie about that with Frances McDormand. I forget what it's called, but this is the international version of this without the van. And do you think that in our audience of catching up to FI, the late starter audience, accelerating because the kids exit the home, the parents are in the empty nest. And if they're not FI yet with their nest egg, do you find that this is a viable option for late starters?
I do, because I've met so many people that have literally started doing it a few years ago. I mentor a lot of people. I have so many people reach out to me on my Facebook page, A Suitcase and a Smile, and they ask me a lot of these questions and a lot more. And so that's why I started the blog, because when I continue to get the same question over and over again, then I'll write a longer detailed piece. We didn't talk about like cell phone. That's another big thing. And so all of that, I put that in there. But the thing is this, and one of my friends just put out a piece. She was talking about brain fog, and because she's older than me, and the challenges she has with that. Now she's married, so she has a husband, and they can work together as they nomad around the world. I think they're out here in Europe right now too, where I know as a solo traveler, I have to do everything myself, but I'm a good problem solver. And I do think that that's a big, big component of having the ability to live a different lifestyle, being a really good problem solver. If something doesn't go your way, okay, what are you going to do next? And how are you going to react to that? So I've had to teach myself, shrug a lot of things off, and I'll get to where I'm going when I get there. So,
Well, Cris, I think that so many pieces of your life demonstrates one of the superpowers that late starters have. Like when you were doing the entrepreneurship stuff, you had your education, you had your PhD, you had the experience. So I feel like that might have allowed you to kind of get into some of those spaces like you did, and some creative ideas, by the way. Those are a ton of takeaways. But we want to thank you for joining us today. You have demonstrated so many parts of your life that late starters could take away and either do a piece of it or even all of it. But it's just so inspirational to see how your life has the trajectory of where you've gone and how comfortable you are with the whole expat life or traveling abroad. And you've learned so much and you've taught us so much. So thank you so much for joining Catching Up to FI.
my pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. And people fantasize about this, but you're living in the reality of it. We're going to have to check back in with you as time goes on and see what challenges have you faced, what's different now, what more have you learned. So this will not be the last time we talk. And I, too, thank you for joining us on Catching Up to FI.
So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. So our social media is Diana Falk, our editor Fritz Bassard, and show notes are done by Sarah von Sternberg. We love them and they keep us going.
Yeah, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community and we hope you love us back. If you want to support the show and what we're doing, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to virtually say thank you if you get value from our content. The link is in the show notes, or you can head over to our website at catchinguptofi.com and click on the Support the Podcast tab at the top right. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to FI. We would appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review so that our message can reach others.
While we are financial educators, and I'm a financial professional that loves to teach, our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
We'll see you next time on Catching Up to FI.